And tonight on the Daily Wrap, a pair of historical Supreme Court rulings have America talking and politicians, well, politicking. Is Donald Trump's TV career over at NBC? More email troubles for Hillary Clinton. And another GOP candidate now set to enter an already crowded race for the White House. We'll tell you why he is winning, no doubt. All that and more. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, along with my co-host, Rick Unger from The Ohio State University.
Ohio State University. Big day coming for The Ohio State University.
Yes.
Your main man. Going to do his thing there.
Went to that school, will announce there.
Go Bucks.
And go Bucks, indeed.
Go Bucks.
So does that mean he gets your support?
No.
Very good. She is America's pundit and Philly attorney, Heather Hansen, looking quite yellow tonight.
A little bright.
And finally, he is a Forbes.com columnist, and you're not, and also an Emmy winner as well. Good for you.
And my tie matches her
That's
blazer.
right.
That's even more.
Landed.
You guys
Well
spoke
done.
earlier.
That's
I see.
All right.
Okay.
Mercifully, let's get to the daily download. And in an open act of defiance, the Supreme Court, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is telling county clerks they can refuse marriage licenses to same-sex couples if it goes against the clerk's religious beliefs. In a statement, Paxton, a Republican, and we quote, "Texas must speak with one voice against this lawlessness and act on multiple levels to further protect religious liberties for all Texans, but most immediately do anything we can do to help our county clerks and public officials who now are forced with defending their religious beliefs against the court ruling," unquote. Paxton warns clerks that they could be sued, but say many lawyers stand ready to defend them, like Heather Hansen, on a pro bono basis. She didn't say that.
Oh, no, pro bono,
Yeah, good point.
Not for free.
At $175 an hour. Paxton's instructions come after that split landmark ruling declaring same-sex marriage the law of the land. Is this just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to challenges to the Supreme Court decision, Mr. Unger?
Well, you know what's interesting, I think, about the Texas situation, technically, if you went in for a license tomorrow, a gay couple, and they were refused, they'd still be okay, the county clerks, because until the circuit court there, remember the ruling actually spoke to the Sixth Circuit. So, you know, at some point the Fifth Circuit's going to have to reverse, if I don't know which way they went, but they're going to have to affirm or reverse similar cases, and then it will certainly be the law in Texas. And then you got to remember that these people took an oath. Every county employee takes an oath to defend the Constitution. So they'll be in big trouble if they don't do it. And is it the tip of the iceberg? Absolutely.
Would you take that case? I forget the pro bono part. But
Listen, I don't know if I would take the county clerk's case, but I do think that there are cases out there that are definitely going to be able to. Because listen, you've got an argument against what the majority decision here said was a fundamental right, the right to marriage. It's not written anywhere into the Constitution. It was arguably sort of created by public opinion, as opposed to the First Amendment right to religion and exercise of religion. And it is going to spawn any number of cases.
Will it shock you if I disagree with what you just said?
Not one
Will you
bit.
be stunned
Not
beyond
even
belief?
a little bit
They were
stunned.
absolutely right in their interpretation. It is a constitutional right under the 14th Amendment.
I'm not saying that they're not, but what I'm saying is it's not written into
it's
there.
not,
And
it's
the
not.
First
But it
Amendment
is the law
clearly
now.
says that you have the right to exercise your religion. So when you are taking the two
I agree.
and creating a
Those are
balance,
the
there's
cases
going to
that will
be
come.
That's right.
Those are the cases that will
But
come.
for me, the conflict is religious liberties in public office. These are public officials. These are not rabbis. These are not pastors
disagree.
who have a diligence to their conscience, who
Or
have a duty to their
bakers
conscience, or
or-
bakers or anyone else. These are officials of the state who've taken an oath. I don't know how they get away with saying, no, we're not going to give it to you unless they slip through that little window that Rick is
Well,
talking
It'll
about.
be very short-lived.
And that's why I wouldn't take that case. But there are cases for people who actually are within the church or bakers, even in the right circumstances, where, and listen, Mike Lee has got a law out there for the First Amendment protection. This is going to be a major issue going
Mike
forward.
Lee, Utah Republican?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just explain that quickly.
He's got there's a law pending that he's proposed to have a First Amendment protection to make sure that we find a way. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but find a way to balance this right to be married versus the right to exercise, not just teach and advocate, but
By the way,
exercise your
Mike Lee's
religion.
law will not pass
I
the
agree.
Senate, so it's not going to be something
More
we have to
symbolic
worry
than
about.
anything else,
Yeah.
certainly. Meanwhile, 2016 Republican hopeful and former Southern Baptist minister, his name is Mike Huckabee, he is blasting the Supreme Court decision and says the ruling may lead to widespread civil disobedience.
I don't think a lot of pastors and Christian schools are going to have a choice. They either are going to follow God, their conscience, and what they truly believe is what the Scripture teaches them, or they will follow civil law. They will go the path of Dr. Martin Luther King, who in his brilliant essay, The Letters from a Birmingham Jail, reminded us, based on what St. Augustine said, that an unjust law is no law at all.
Now, Governor Huckabee calls this judicial tyranny. Did the Supreme Court go too far, Mr. Tucker?
No, I happen to be a Christian. I happen to be a member of a congregation in a church where gay couples are welcome. They're part of our community and our congregation. There's no religious conflict whatsoever. There is conflict within different branches of Christianity as to whether this is okay or not. And I understand that discussion because I am related to some people who are disturbed by it and who don't think it's right. It doesn't make them bad people, but it is the law.
Yeah, also understand, you can think that the Supreme Court went too far, but the Supreme Court can't go too far.
That's right.
What
it is
they
the
say
Supreme
is
Court.
the law,
That's
period.
right. And to be thinking that it went too far is all well and good, but if you want to win the next election, I think that the Republicans need to get it together on the social issues and start to understand that what's done is done and it's time to move forward.
We're
Pretty
going to talk
sure they
about
won't.
the way we're going to talk about the right way to answer this in a little bit, but I think one candidate, or at least a candidate coming out soon, probably got it right. One final question for you. Are we now looking at a liberal Supreme Court?
Yes.
No.
Oh, Rick, I did the research on this today.
Look,
and
but look at their decisions today. They shoot down an EPA regulation.
Of the 10 most
I think you're
important
looking at a
decisions-
fairer Supreme Court.
Of the really interesting thing is, of the 10 most important decisions of this session, 7 were found in a more liberal way. But the really interesting thing that just shows how open-minded the more conservative people are, the number of times that the conservatives went to the liberal side as opposed to the number, I think it's 3 times as many times
But that
as the
doesn't make it
liberal
a
went
more
to the
liberal court. It
conservative side.
means that the cases that came before them called for that result. Here's what I'm saying to my liberal friends. You need to cut the Supreme Court a break, because every time they've ruled in a way that the liberals don't like,
Right.
then they start charging, political bias, this and that. Well, it is fair for you to say that they are certainly not biased against the liberals.
Last word.
But they are being fair.
Listen, if you're saying that the members themselves aren't more liberal, I guess I'd agree. But their decisions this session were definitely more liberal.
I think that's right. They called for it.
Absolutely. Speaking of ministers, Lutheran minister Mark Dankoff blames the Supreme Court same-sex ruling on the Jews. He told reporters in Iran, that's you, Rick, that Jewish influence and money are being used to destroy Christian values and cultures. So this is like a Mel Brooks skit. Are the Jews to blame? Rick Unger.
Well, look, the Jews are always to blame. I mean, come on. We're laughing, but I got to tell you, when I saw this story this morning, this is how it begins. This is how bad things begin to happen in the world. When religious figures like Mr. Danoff, who I wish we could get him on the show because I have a few things I'd like to discuss with him, when they start this and people listen to this, and the next thing you know, some really bad things start happening.
Yeah,
You're
I mean-
Christian, correct? Just so we could preface your comments.
But
Okay, thank
either way, I mean, when you're blaming things on Christian Jews, right now we've got problems, real problems with Christianity, where
Yeah.
people going against Christianity. So either way, no, this is absolutely not to blame on the Jews. It's not to blame on anyone. It's adaptation to what's going on in the world.
And
You're
it's
right
the
about that.
law. It is
Right.
the Constitution. The Constitution has always permitted this. We just recognized it finally.
I'm pretty sure ISIS would blame Christians or Jews in almost any situation.
You're right. I agree.
Okay, great. Not surprisingly, 2016 hopeful Donald Trump has spoken out in favor of traditional marriage. But CNN's Jake Tapper asked him, what's so traditional about being married 3 times?
Well, they have a very good point. But, I've been a very hard-working person. I have a great marriage. I have a great wife now. And my 2 wives were very good. And I don't blame them. But I was working, maybe like you, 22 hours a day.
I'm not asking you to explain your divorces,
No, I know.
but,
No,
but
I'm just saying I blame myself because my business was so powerful for me. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Okay, Mr. Trump, 3 times is a charm, seems very happy. Did you think the question was fair?
I thought the question was completely fair under the circumstances, and now I want to find one of those bakers who will not bake a cake for a gay wedding and find out if they would have baked a cake for Trump, because that's against their religion too.
Well, I mean, I think that that's unfair. I think that when you start denigrating these gay
Sorry,
bakers-
we got to go.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. My bad. More Daily Wrap in just a moment.
I feel great for the people who talk to me every day in the grocery store and on airplanes and stop me on sidewalks and tell me that this has changed their life forever. They no longer have to worry about affording health care if they get sick, taking care of their kids, and this is a very good day for those Americans.
Well, like the Sally Ride of healthcare. Well, welcome back to the Daily Wrap. I'm Joe Concha, joined by my co-host Rick Unger, and filling out the panel, Hanson and Tucker. All right. That was former Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, and she was on talking about, of course, the Supreme Court ruling upholding Obamacare subsidies for more than 6 million Americans. We are now joined by Dr. Richard Armeling. He is the Associate Professor of Clinical Medicine at Mount Sinai Beth Israel Hospital in New York City. Dr. Armeling is also the President of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. Dr. Armeling, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. How are you guys?
I'm doing well, thank you. So what does the High Court's ruling mean for our health care?
Well, it solidifies Obamacare, at least for the next 15, 16 months. I don't see it going anywhere. Of course, the big battle, as far as I'm concerned now, is Medicare. And Medicare has always been a huge problem, but it's gotten a lot worse. And there are going to be a lot more seniors going on to Medicare over the next 10 years. So that is technically a bigger problem than Obamacare right now. But look, Obamacare perpetuates this incredible bureaucratization of medicine, where it's getting harder and harder for doctors to actually provide care. And we get back to this whole idea about coverage versus care. Coverage is not care. Coverage is some sort of a card that says that you may be able to get care if you could find a willing provider. But that's going to become harder and harder. I mean, Obamacare has not created new doctors. In fact, doctors are leaving the profession at a higher rate than ever before.
Doctor, it's Rick Unger. You know, it was interesting that you brought up Medicare, because I know that your organization that you lead was against Medicare going all the way back to the beginning. I know you guys have been around since the 40s. When you add to that your organization also doesn't believe that HIV causes AIDS, you think there is a link between autism and vaccinations, I got to ask, why would we expect Americans to take seriously the your academy, your group?
Well, Rick, you're using the typical liberal trick of character assassination. First of all,
was anything I said untrue?
The AAPS does not have any problem with the HIV hypothesis for AIDS. And you are mistaking what may appear in a journal article.
Your journal.
An opinion of the journal, of the organization. It is not. The articles that appear in the journal, which is peer reviewed, by the way, are simply articles. They don't reflect our point of view.
So that's not, just so we're clear and so the audience is clear, it's not your point of view then. You're saying that you don't think there's a leak.
No, we're scientific physicians.
Okay, because I did read an article, not just by the journal, but the opinion of your organization on that. But let me ask you this. The AMA supports Obamacare. The National Physician Alliance supports it. American Academy of Family Physicians supports it. Where do you think they're missing this? Why are they supporting it and you guys don't?
A lot of so-called official medicine supports Obamacare. The official medicine does not necessarily represent the rank and file physicians working in the trenches out there in practice.
So your organization does.
Nor does the AMA. The AMA, by the way, also opposed Medicare. And that was probably the last time they were on the right side of an issue. Medicare was, in fact, the foot in the door for socialized health care. And we're seeing the fruition now with not just Obamacare, but CHIP.
And yet Medicare is very popular.
Most entitlements become popular. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know an awful lot of conservatives who sure like their Medicare.
It's a bureaucratic, difficult program. It's going to be bankrupt within our lifetime unless things change radically. It pays doctors very poorly. Doctors are opting out of Medicare increasingly. And you're not going to be able to find doctors to take care of you under Medicare, which is of some concern to me because I'm rapidly approaching Medicare age.
Doctor, let me get your reaction to what 2016 Democratic hopeful Bernie Sanders said over the weekend. He says Obamacare doesn't go far enough. Take a listen.
We need to join the rest of the industrialized world. We are the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people as a right. And yet we end up spending much more than they do. So I do believe that we have to move toward a Medicare for all, single-payer system.
So, Doctor, do we want socialized medicine like they have in Europe?
Or like they tried to get in Vermont, Bernie Sanders' home state, but couldn't do it because it was too expensive? No, we don't. Socialized health care, again, you cannot guarantee health care for all. That is an impossibility. All you can do is say you're going to pay a certain amount of money. And then it's up to the physicians and the nurses to actually provide the care. So this whole idea of a guaranteed to health care is absolutely absurd. This whole idea of a right to health care is absurd. You have a right to pay for your money and buy health care. You do not have a right for someone else to give you health care.
Dr. Richard Ammerling, Associate Professor of Clinical Medicine at Mount Sinai Beth Israel Hospital in New York City. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Great, my pleasure.
All right. So let's go around the table. Bill, I want to get you in.
Well, I didn't have a chance to ask this, but I don't understand why he calls it a post-constitutional crisis. Yeah. This was a law passed by Congress. It's not a law I support. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't like it, but I don't understand the post-constitutional crisis part.
I think he has a very good point. It's the same point in a Wall Street Journal op-ed today about the difference between insurance and care. A lot of people have insurance, and I think that that's fabulous. But with more and more patients enrolling, fewer and fewer doctors participating, we are going to have a crisis in care. And I think that that's something that hasn't been yet discussed and it hasn't been anticipated, and I don't know what we're going to do.
He also wasn't being completely forthright in some of his answers to my questions, and his last point was odd. Nobody says there's a right to health care in the United States. There is no right. That doesn't mean that a socialized system couldn't work. We can argue that.
On the crisis point, you're exactly right in terms of doctors not being incentivized or young people to go in because it's 10 years out of your life and it's really expensive. Anyway, back with more in a moment. And welcome back to The Wrap. Well, let us know what you think about the Obamacare ruling. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. We may read a couple on the air if you're lucky. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's email scandal just will not go away. The former First Lady is accused of not providing all the emails between her and advisor Sid Blumenthal. Mrs. Clinton told reporters that Blumenthal's emails surrounding Libya were, quote, unsolicited. Well, it turns out that may not be true. According to the New York Times, email records that Mrs. Clinton apparently failed to turn over to the State Department last fall show that she repeatedly asked Mr. Blumenthal to, quote, keep them coming, as she said in an August 2012 reply to a memo from him, which she called, quote, another keeper. This, of course, has added heat to the Benghazi debate, and Congressman Trey Gowdy, well, he wants answers.
So I have met with Secretary Kerry's chief of staff privately. We talked on the phone last week. Our next interaction will be public. And John, if I don't get satisfaction from that public interaction with his chief of staff, the next person to come explain to Congress why he has been so recalcitrant in turning over documents will be the secretary himself.
Now, Gowdy says the State Department's lack of compliance is preventing him from completing his investigation. Okay, let's start with Hillary. The missing emails were discovered after Blumenthal turned over his batch of Libya-related emails with Hillary over to the House committee investigating the Benghazi attacks. Was it a mistake, or did the Democratic frontrunner go out of her way to hide the emails, Mr. Unger?
Hillary would never do such a thing.
Even you can't defend it anymore.
I can't do it with a straight face. I'm really sorry. Now, the interesting coda to this story is that it has now snuck out of the White House that they are really ticked off at her.
Ron
for
Fournier
all
wrote
this.
that.
Yeah, he did. For all of the rule breaking she was doing.
Down the middle. Before you answer, because you weren't here on Friday, I want to get your thought on this. This was a New York Times headline. New Hampshire poll shows Bernie Sanders in dead heat with Hillary Clinton. And that's where I think...
But it is just New Hampshire.
I get
We
that.
gotta
Well,
keep it.
just
But-
New
but
Hampshire.
that
New
is a
Hampshire's-
microcosm of the trustworthy numbers that are going down among Democrats.
But he's from Vermont.
Well, and that is definitely the problem for Hillary. I think that when we start going back and forth, well, this email was before this conversation and after this and then before this, ultimately people just understand that she hid something and she didn't provide the server and now it's all gone and she didn't tell the truth about her yoga pants and what she was emailing about. And so that's the final gist. And I think that that's what leads to those numbers.
Bill?
Is that guy like a former prosecutor or what?
Yes, he is.
I mean, no, I know he is. He's a former prosecutor. He's like a junkyard dog prosecutor. He's not going to let go of this.
Nope.
He's going to get a hold of her. She clearly was trying to hide it. She could run around saying, depending on what the definition of is all she wants.
It's like he may not,
Yeah.
from what I read today in one story, that his sons were pushing him, and now obviously what happened with his son Beau, perhaps he's not in the mental state to go through a campaign. Anyway, John Kerry is a little busy right now in Vienna trying to hammer out this nuclear deal with LeBron, but has the State Department been dragging its feet? Gowdy says he's still waiting for emails from 9 of 10 former senior aides to Secretary Clinton. That's very interesting. Any thoughts on that, Tucker?
Well, if they've disappeared, they've disappeared. You can't go back and make them reappear. And if you're lying about it, you suddenly can't say, "Oh, I was lying about it." You've got to be really committed to the fact
I know where to
they're
find
gone.
them. The Chinese have them.
That could
Well,
be,
that might
actually.
be-
That would be
may
the
well be the
argument.
case. But the other thing is, you're emailing to someone. I mean, I think that ultimately, if you try hard enough, and we do that in our litigation all the time, you find the person that they're emailing to, subpoena their records. There is a way to get this stuff. But I do think that the administration is going to be more upset with Hillary if all of a sudden John Kerry is having to testify about this stuff and getting drug into this holy mess.
Yeah, then it reflects on them, right? Exactly. Okay. Have a feeling we'll be talking about this again
You
in about
think?
24 hours. Let us know what you think about Hillary and her never-ending email troubles. If you go to newsmax.com/comments, that's Newsmax TV, newsmaxtv.com/comments. Maybe we'll read some after the break. That could be quite fun, Rick Under.
Well, we can manage to talk about this till the election, I suspect, Hillary's emails. Has anybody written the book yet?
The book on the
The
emails?
Missing Emails of Hillary Clinton?
It's coming out in August, I believe.
I would hope.
Yeah.
If not, let's do it.
It's a good money maker. Anyway, back with more in just a moment. And welcome back to Daily Wrap. Well, New Jersey Governor Christie is set to announce his candidacy for president tomorrow. This is not a recording. This brings the GOP total to 14, Bill Tucker. But shortly after Mr. Christie announces, Ohio Governor John Kasich, otherwise known as your 45th president of your United States, will announce his candidacy on July 21st at the Ohio State University. Many in the know thought he would never announce, in part because of low polling numbers nationally, and compared to big names like Clinton and Bush, he's not exactly a household name yet. But the 63-year-old governor said on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday that simply because his focus has been on fixing his home state of Ohio.
I didn't travel outside the state. I didn't go out in politics. What I wanted to do was fix Ohio. So we went from $8 billion in the hole to a $2 billion surplus to a balanced budget to the largest tax cuts in the country and growing 360,000 jobs with everyone having a chance. Now I can go out and tell my story, and hopefully the polls will rise. We'll see. Do my best. That's all I can do.
Tremendous. The governor also shared his thoughts on last week's Supreme Court ruling to legalize same-sex marriage across the country.
I believe in traditional marriage, but the Supreme Court has ruled, and it's the law of the land, and we'll abide by it. And I think everybody needs to take a deep breath to see how this evolves. But I know this, I mean, religious institutions, religious entities, like the Catholic Church, they need to be honored as well. And I think there's an ability to strike.
And that's how you answer that question. Can Kasich overcome his low polling numbers and actually be a factor in this race?
I actually think he will be. I mean, he's not somebody I'd be inclined to vote for. We have obviously big differences, but I think he is truly a decent man, and that counts for a lot. And I'm even willing to forgive the fact that when he and I spoke at the beginning of the football season, he told me that the Ohio State Buckeyes were not a good football team. Wow. That would be the same Ohio State Buckeyes that won the national championship. So we know he can be very, very wrong.
Probably didn't get a look at that third-string quarterback that led you to a national championship.
Well, that's his job. He's the governor of the state. He should have.
Good point. Good point. So Heather, obviously, you know where my allegiances lie.
Right.
I hope, America, it is somewhat refreshing that you have somebody saying this is my horse in the race, as opposed to people saying I'm not sure, or I'm trying to be objective or anything. No, I think this guy could be a great president, and only because of what he did in Ohio. And you can't put him in a corner and say he's an extremist, right? Or Romney, oh well, he's rich, he can't relate, or McCain, he's old and grouchy. I think in terms of a candidate that would face Hillary Clinton, he would absolutely give her the most problems, because I don't really see too many negatives outside of the fact that he may not be able to raise enough money.
And he's handled so many issues well. The Tamir Rice shooting of the young black boy who was shot by the police there, and how he got together and has a police force agency meeting with people in the public. The other thing is he's likable. That quote just there, I mean, I think we all laughed out loud. You like him, you smile with him, and that's a big part of winning the presidency, is having the electorate like you.
I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't come across really as a politician. And the fact that he has TV experience will help him.
Well, no, he's likable, and he's got a great record. He's got a great story. Yeah. He took a state, he turned it around, he fixed it, he made it better.
So what's the
and
problem?
You liked it.
And more importantly, I don't think he has any skeletons, like many of the other Republican candidates whose skeletons we're still going to hear about.
I think you are betting on a good horse, because I think more people, the more they see of him.
Vice President.
I don't know who do you.
He's not
a Bush.
It's Bush Kasich.
Well, and the other thing I was worried about with him was Medicare.
Tough to beat.
And how he expanded Medicare in Ohio. But now with the Obamacare ruling, that may not be so much of a problem for him.
Yeah, that certainly helped him as well.
I thought it was awesome that he did that. You know how much heat he took from fellow Republican governors, but he cared about the poor people.
But that's where I thought it might hurt him in the primary. But now that Obamacare ruling has happened, maybe it won't hurt him so much.
Interesting. All right, well, we'll see. But glad to hear that he has your votes at least. And you would be comfortable.
Let's not get carried away.
You would at least be comfortable with him in the White House.
I would sleep at night.
Out of most Republicans.
As long as he keeps that temper that's kind of lurking under the surface under control.
That's dicey.
And I know too many people who work for him, so I know some of his downsides.
It's a dicey line, right, between passion and temper. But I think he doesn't go over it, not yet anyway. GOP hopeful, meanwhile, Dr. Ben Carson won conservative Summit straw poll this last weekend. That was over 209 votes, 900 votes, 209 votes. Carson is the first person to win this poll back-to-back since it started back in 2011. That's surprising. He polls well, and he's winning these straw polls. Previous winners include Texas Senator Ted Cruz of Florida, Senator Marco Rubio, and Herman Cain, the former CEO of Godfather's Pizza.
So much for that poll.
999, right? I remember him. Yeah. Do I even need to ask if the straw poll means diddly for 2016, Hanson?
I think most polls mean diddly, and I think this means less than diddly.
Double diddly.
Less than diddly?
Diddly squat.
The history of this poll would indicate that history ain't his friend.
It's like the Iowa straw poll, how it almost predicted no presidential winners since 1954.
Like
Bush.
This is we can move on from this.
But are you surprised Carson does as well?
No, I think people like Ben Carson. He is a likable guy. I think everybody knows, even those who vote for him, that he cannot be president of the United States.
Oh, absolutely, but he'd be a great Surgeon General.
Yes.
Great Surgeon General. Anyway, let us know what you think about the race for the White House so far and John Kasich's chances. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. and we may read some on the air. We got them coming in already. Coming up next, it's potluck time. This is the Daily Wrap. Do not go anywhere. And welcome back to Daily Wrap. Before we jump back in, let's jump on board, shall we? Newsmax wants to send one lucky couple on a 7-day Silver Sea cruise to the Caribbean this winter. Obviously, a luxury cruise and the Silver Win is the trip of a lifetime. To win, however, you need to enter our sweepstakes. Visit newsmax.com/sweepstakes to enter. That's newsmax.com/sweepstakes. All right, it's potluck time. This is the part of the show you may have heard. We actually go around the table and we share our favorite stories of the day. And if you get to wear a yellow tie that matches Heather's outfit, you get to go first.
I gotta go first.
Boom!
That's awesome. This is not my favorite story of the day, however. I just want to make it clear. Today, something happened on Wall Street. The veil of complacency dropped on Wall Street, and it revealed a much more raw, naked emotion, which was fear. And we saw a massive sell-off, the likes of which we haven't seen this year so far. In fact, we had all three major indices fall 2% or better. The Morgan Stanley World Stock Index fell 2%. Why? Well, there are three really basic reasons why. One is Greece. They have $1.8 billion that it looks like they're going to default on, or something bad is going to happen, and we're led to believe. Second, Puerto Rico, a little island down to our south out there in the Gulf, got $73 billion worth of debt they now say they can't pay. And in China, we're standing on the edge of a bear market in stocks, and there are questions about the Chinese economy. But the real reason is because the market needed an excuse. There's been a lot of fear lurking under this market all along. You had three really good reasons to do it. So let me give you another set of numbers. Let's start with 44. 44 months since we've had a 10% correction in this market. Why is that unusual? Because typically you have 20 months in between corrections in a market. So a 10% sell-off here wouldn't be untoward. It might be a little scary, it might be a little unnerving, but it wouldn't be unusual. The other number is 71, because that's typically how long it takes to come out of a corrective phase. What do you do? Well, that's up to you. I'm not in the business of telling people what to do, but maybe you could follow the advice of some stock market people who say, look, you know what? If it falls 10%, maybe it falls a little bit more, because markets don't always get everything just exactly right. Take a look at the stocks that you wanted to own but couldn't own because, well, they were a little bit too expensive, and let this work itself out. We look like we're going to have a negative set of earnings in the S&P 500 in the second quarter, so this may take a little time to work out. And yes, it's scary, and it's definitely not my favorite story.
Is this 2008 all over again? Will we get a go ahead first?
I just have to say, Joe, you said that Tucker learned nothing from all those years he was a business reporter.
Well,
you were wrong. He's good.
He is very good.
That really was a good analysis.
You're like the Kramer guy on CNBC, but without the
with
annoying.
with the spit and scream.
Yeah,
Throw paper
exactly.
everywhere. What were you going to ask?
I was going to say, is this like 2008 all over again? Don't you get that feeling that something's going to burst and it's going to happen before the election? That won't hurt the incumbent party.
See, this is a fear, which is healthy actually in a market. The complacency in a market where you say, well, you know what, we got these problems in Greece, we got these problems in China, we got these problems in Puerto Rico, we got these problems with earnings. Oh, cool, guys. Don't worry about it. That's not a healthy market. A healthy market's got a little bit of fear in it, where you got to like clench your gut a little bit, and think, oh man, do I want to risk my money in this market?
I don't think I do right now. Just saying. Anyway, okay, it's my turn.
I have
Excellent
to make
job
a phone
tonight.
call to the financial advisor. I'll be right back with you.
Okay, very good. But it's funny that you picked up your phone, and during the commercial break, admittedly, some of us check our phones, the Twitter, to see the reaction from people watching around the country and around the world on satellite television and so on. And we just can't seem to put our phones down like ever. So we have some new stats to share with you. According to one publication, there are now 176 million addicts of phones. Addict is defined by you can't go more than an hour without looking at it. And that doesn't include sleep, just when you're awake. All right, so 176 million, 52% are female. The average adult, gets this, checks their cell phone 110 times per day. And if you think that's high, it really isn't, because you constantly stroll, you check an email, you're checking a text, you're maybe responding to something. 80% of 18 to 24-year-olds sleep with their phones. Guess what? I'm a little older than 24. I sleep with my phone. I'm a sick individual. And 84% of adults can't go one day without their phones. That's according to therichest.com. So, let me ask all of you, okay, as you clutch your phones, do you think you could go a day without it?
No,
Have you
I'm
tried?
an addict. I need the 12-step program,
Okay.
apparently. Yeah.
Because there's
I couldn't.
there's a resort in Germany, and I'll ask you
I'm
guys the
not
same
going
question in
there.
a moment. It's called the Villa Stephanie. Okay, I'm sure you're not. That actually has a kill switch that will allow you to kill any internet access in your room or wherever you may be, like in a spa, so you could actually relax. So here's my question actually for you. Okay, well, can you go a day without it?
No.
For your profession, though.
Well, no, but even on a Saturday, I can't stop looking at it.
But like 7 years ago, you didn't even have this ability to check a phone.
I know, but then I couldn't do all the things that I do if I didn't have the ability to check the
Good
phone.
point.
The fallacy is you
Bill,
wouldn't
quickly.
relax.
I couldn't. Rick and I are going to 12-step program together.
Okay.
You wouldn't relax.
I think it's good
You'd
though.
be
I think you
stressed.
actually would after a little while. You're just gonna get over that.
When I go on hikes with the dog and the wife and the kid, I'm actually trying to leave it at home, and I do feel relaxed because for once I'm not getting stressed by seeing something I probably didn't want to see. Anyway, yay or nay is next. This is the Daily Wrap. It's happy time, people. It's time for yay or nay. First up, the 7 world powers in Vienna negotiating a nuclear deal with Iran, not LeBron, will most likely miss the June 30th deadline. Apparently I said LeBron before, go figure. This according to several U.S. officials after Iran's foreign minister left to go back to, well, Iran, presumably to discuss the agreement and get word on how to proceed. Iran has been negotiating a deal with the U.S., UK, France, Germany, Russia, and China for some time now, with 2 deadline extensions already occurring. The deal is supposed to curb Iran's nuclear development in exchange for sanctions relief. The problem, however, is over UN access to various military sites for inspections. After years and years of talks, pushing the deadline back for a few more days isn't that big of a deal. But do you think we will get a signed deal by tomorrow, yay or nay? Unger.
Absolutely not.
I mean,
Heather?
no chance in heaven.
Wow.
No,
Wouldn't go to
nay.
hell.
We're making this unanimous. It's a unanimous nay.
Will we ever get a deal, period?
No.
It's becoming much shakier.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I don't think so.
No shot, right? If we can't verify, then what's the point?
I don't even think Obama, as badly as he wants and even needs this agreement, is going to be able to reach something that he can put his name on.
Yeah, I agree.
And get through the Senate.
Yep, because if it's a legacy thing, he has Obamacare now wrapped up. Okay, good for you, right? And maybe gay marriage, it'll go back and that'll be part of his legacy, even though he didn't really do anything. It just happened to happen in his watch. But still, anyway, okay. I've just hijacked my own segment. Listen to this.
An unnerving sight today at a London Gay Pride celebration, an ISIS flag among a sea of rainbow colors. CNN International assignment editor spotted the flag and was able to snap these pictures.
And that was a real CNN segment devoted to reporting on what host Suzanne Malveaux called an unnerving sighting of an ISIS flag at a gay pride event in London on Saturday. If the flag were an ISIS flag, it would indeed have been unnerving. The only problem is it wasn't. The woman who spotted the flag, CNN contributor Lucy Paul Lee, even said herself that there was no Arabic lettering on the flag, but rather what appeared to be, quote, gobbledygook. And she was right. This is CNN. The flag covered instead an array of, let's just call them adult toys, made to look like an ISIS flag. The segment was taken off of CNN's website later that day. That can't be very responsible from a media perspective. I'm sure very special, reliable sources will be covering that shortly. Should CNN get a pass on this? Yay or nay? Heather Hansen.
I think it's an understandable mistake. It looks like the ISIS flag. I mean, I don't know that you would
No,
be
it
expecting.
doesn't.
It does a little bit.
It's not the same
A
colors.
little
It's
bit.
got the whole, San Antonio
I
Spurs
don't
thing
know.
going.
Would you be expecting a flag with sex toys on it?
At a
I
gay
would-
pride thing?
I guess.
Maybe.
I certainly wouldn't be expecting an ISIS flag there.
No,
No, you shouldn't get a pass. This is why you look at things and go, I need to verify that before I put it on TV and tell the entire world there's an ISIS flag here.
Well, the problem is we keep asking this question too often, should CNN get a pass? Which is all because Tucker's not there anymore.
That's right.
true.
Exactly right.
That's the
Let
whole
me
problem.
tell you something. Nobody was fired at Rolling Stone over their article on rape on campus.
That's right.
And we've decided everybody gets a pass now. You know, people don't get passes. Just don't give a
Agreed.
pass.
And
No,
at
they
the
shouldn't.
very least, you keep the segment up on your website. You don't take
say,
it down
"We
and act
made
like
a
it never
mistake."
happened. Because
We made
now,
a mistake.
That's right.
right, but yeah, you say you made a mistake, but you still keep it up because now people like us are going to talk about it for them
Yeah, but
taking it down.
It was
Mistake,
dirty
that's-
pictures. They had to keep, I mean,
Good point. Anyway, we have to move on. In nanny state news tonight, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is pushing landlords and even building developers to ban smoking inside of apartments so that neighbors don't have to inhale secondhand smoke. Smoking has already been banned in bars, restaurants, workplaces, sports venues, and even parks. But private homes. Is de Blasio going too far with this? Yay or nay, Rick Unger, with your...
Absolutely.
What is that thing called?
This is called a vaporizer.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. You can't do that.
Agreed.
He goes too far often. This is yet another time. Although you do see a lot of lawsuits like this. It's definitely an issue right now.
Interesting indeed.
I quit smoking in 1988. I don't smoke, don't advocate people smoke. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I can't stand this, the direction New York City wants to go into in terms of telling people what to do with their lives.
I'm going to guess your brand. Marlboro.
I did smoke Marlboro, but I also rolled my own.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
We're talking
Tell us
cigarettes
more.
here. Tobacco.
Tell us more.
Just saying.
That's
anyway.
another program.
Right. All right, Tandle, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Joe Concha. Newsmax Prime with J.D. Hayward. That's next.